I'm Craig Webb. I'm a design partner with Gehry Partners. I've worked with Frank for 25 years. Currently, there are 18 people working on the project, and so the team has different expertise, and we all work together to make the building what it is.
I love this profession. I love the challenges of it.
So I'm basically leading the team, working with all the different groups in the team, developing the facade, the interiors, doing the client contact.
I've been here for about 9.5 years, almost 10, I think. Been involved with the project since the competition phase. I work on design the project primarily with the partner Craig Webb and then my colleague Gehry.
We work very intuitively. We come at it with a strong sense of leaning toward the human side.
I think the trick for us as part of the design process is sort of to understand the guts of the building, and so a lot of the shaping of the facade gets informed by the interior. So it's really dialogue between the program and the sort of the shape of the building.
So it's a very rigorous and yet very playful process.
It's like trying on suits. Now let's take that building over there. Let's try that one on. So we put that suit on, and we go okay. And so in that process of kind of poking around, we learn things about what fits with the city that we're in, what fits with the specifics of the site. On every building, there's a kind of moment of truth where you go, okay, that's working.
And all the years I've been going to London, it's always pointed out to me by people saying, look, there's a Battersea Power Station.
It has its beauty as a ruin, so I think it's really interesting to see how it now gets transformed into sort of a building with a new life.
It's a giant piece of sculpture now.
I think the most interesting part of this was we'd never done a building in London before. This seemed like the right opportunity. We like to do residential buildings.
We start out by laying out blocks, and we make these kind of models so we understood the scale of the buildings.
We broke the project down into 5 separate buildings, trying to make the buildings smaller in scale.
That was a way of respecting the scale of the power station.
Frank talks about it as it being like an anchor. I mean, that's the biggest anchor you could imagine, right? That's the center. These are the pieces that are the spokes. We definitely design from the inside to the outside. We're always going back and forth between the physical model, the shaping of the facade, and the functionality of the apartment, and making sure the apartments are working really well. And so there's a certain width to the block that gives you the proper depth for the apartments, that gives you the proper access for sunlight.
You have to have a certain size to house so many apartments within a building, but then you have a certain freedom of expression for the facades.
The shapes don't have as much meaning unless they have something simple to play off against, an oppositional piece.
This is a contrast with that. There's a humanist texture here that's different than that.
That's what's going on sculpturally here. The two pieces are balancing each other.
So you get the play between sort of the new architecture and then the old monument that like so many people are so fond of.
We made this bay window Ripley facade so that more people can look at the power station.
The shaping, which may look beautiful architecturally, it's a lot of work to push and pull and shape the building both from the inside and the outside. There have been, 6 or 7 different iterations of these, but the payback is going to be some really great apartments.
I think it's going to be a special project.
The kind of genius of the Foster design for the competition was that on the west side of the high street is 2 stories of retail. And so there's an upper level walkway and a lower level walkway. And on the east side, the buildings that we're doing, there's a single double height layer of retail from here to here. So these will be larger scale shops that'll have 2 stories or mezzanine, and their intent was really to make this feel like a street and not like a shopping mall. We've been looking at New Bond Street, and we want that kind of liveliness in the facade with lots of big scale graphics and banners and very animated shop fronts. That idea of creating really vibrant retail, which is a very urban idea, is kind of key to this. And then the residential apartments sit above that. There are two-story townhouse apartments that are down on the garden level, which will have double high spaces, and I think those are going to be really special spaces to live in. The apartments on the top floors are two-story duplexes, and so they have vertical open space between them. The apartments on the top of the flower are going to really have a lot of architectural expression in the exterior facade, and they're going to be amazing. The best part of this project is going to be the apartments themselves, because every apartment is a response to the facade and the shaping of the facade. So no two apartments in these buildings are going to be the same. The second layer between the 5 buildings, there is a private garden for the people that live in these buildings. And so that very traditional London kind of park space that is, private to the residents. And then beyond that is the Prospect Park, which is the real public green space, which opens a vista from Battersea Park Road all the way to the power station. The park will connect to linear green space that goes all the way through Nine Elms, all the way from Vauxhall across. There will be a community hub, and then a children's playground that will be open to the whole community. The main amenities for this side are going to be a floor that'll have a kind of club space, very small gym, a kind of party room, some meeting rooms. So I think it's trying to kind of balance a kind of shared business environment, a shared kind of entertainment environment.
Basically, it's 5 buildings. 4 of them sort of form more of the massing of the site, and then set apart one central building that sort of creates a second focus next to the power station, and that building we refer to as the flower.
Instantly, when you put the iconic building in the middle, you create a value for all the buildings surrounding it.
There were several different iterations of that building, and Frank kept saying, it's not good enough. He said, I want to make a building that everybody in London is going to have to come look at. He made a sketch, and the whole body language of the building, of that shape and the way it pushed upward to the top, and how it has this kind of bustle on the top is something we've never done before.
The flower is a quite spectacular building, and I think we're all sort of still learning about what the building actually is.
We have a children's play area up on the north side and a community hub on the southern portion. So we want to make it a very open environment where we can convert to a different type of usages throughout the day. And I think we want to create this park to be almost like a fantasy land.
A kind of small-scale urban landscape to create play opportunities for children of lots of different ages.
Comfort comes from light.
Daylight is really a key element of design, and it affects the way people feel.
I mean, it's definitely precious to me, this idea of having a lot of light inside apartments.
Our goal was to try to bring as much of natural light and create a nice ambience.
That the sunlight is actually going to bounce off of the buildings and bounce down into the space and become a very warm, beautiful, colored light. The winter gardens, which are these little porches that push out of the facade, you'll be able to step out and be surrounded by glass and really, connect with the daylight in that way. The challenge of this site, being next to the power station, which is a very big building, is to try and figure out how to make a neighborhood. And London is one of the greatest cities in the world in terms of what the kind of residential neighborhood fabric is like. So we spent a lot of time looking at the buildings, looking at the terrace housing that Nash did, and trying to pick up the clues from that.
I feel like the master plan really tries to create a neighborhood that would not only be focused on the power station, and we sort of took that a step further, and Foster and Partners did that too by really trying to create buildings that are independent in their body language from the power station. Really have to reinvent, in a way, the idea of like an urban neighborhood.
since each building is done by different architects, I think it's gonna create an interesting synergy between all different buildings.
The view from the living rooms, how sort of the shape comes together with the winter gardens, it would just be spectacular.
I hope that they find comfort and solace and privacy and sense of personal place. We've tried to make it as nice and comfy as possible.